A kid comes home and they say that they want to start playing volleyball. 6 months later, you are standing in the gym of your local YMCA, your local Boys and Girls Club, and you're starting to hear rumblings from other parents. Something about an elite team, a traveling team, and without anybody in that room saying anything out loud, the volleyball that your kid signed up for and the volleyball that everyone is talking about are doing two completely different things. The first one is a game. The second one is a sport. It's the same word, it's the same kid, it's the same court, it's just different machines running underneath. So the thesis for this video, we have killed hobbies for our kids. We, as in the adult world, that includes parents, leagues, secondary markets, content creating platforms, all of it included. We have built a culture in which the moment a child shows interest or talent in something, a machine, a trap, it just activates around them. The interest becomes a credential. The talent becomes labor. The hobby itself becomes a product. And by the time that kid is like 14, they've burned out of like 3 or 4 different hobbies. So this video is like the third part of a trilogy. We started talking about Magic the Gathering, and this is where we ended up. You don't need to watch the first 2, but obviously I would love it if you did. Like, share, and subscribe. But the 3 sectors that I'm going to be talking about are kind of areas that are going to be most common for parents that have kids around my age. And these 3 areas are things like trading card games and other collectible hobbies, youth sports, because I live in America, very, very common for youth sports to be a very fundamental childhood experience. And now something that is uniquely 21st century, the kid content creator economy. We're talking about family YouTube channels, kid influencers, and stuff like that, because that version of this squeeze is most uniquely a part of like this decade, most uniquely modern. So this pattern has about 6 steps, and it's about the same shape in every form. 1, kid gets into something, a card game, a sport, a camera, it doesn't really matter what. 2, the system around the kid catches on. This is the part most people get wrong, because they picture some cartoon villain. It's almost never that. The adult who triggers step 2 is usually a parent or a coach who looks at the kid's talent and thinks, okay, this kid's pretty good, this could lead somewhere. A scholarship, a shot at college, a head start on whatever's coming up in the future. That's the most common version. A parent doing what their economic moment taught them to do. And then 3, the serious stuff shows up. Coaching, equipment, channels, secondary markets, tournament circuits, whatever the make this more serious version is in your kid's hobby or interest, the money starts to go up, the expectations start to go up, the stakes start to go up. Now there's a goal, a scholarship, a view count, a return on investment. The kid is doing the same thing they were doing before inside of a completely different world. 5, the fun goes. Kids don't keep loving something that's being measured. The thing that they like stops being the thing that they liked. It becomes the thing that they are being graded on. It becomes the equivalent of work. And then 6, the kid quits, usually quietly, usually between the ages of like 11 and 14, right at the window when they could have built a long-term identity around said thing. It's burnout. It's pricing out. It's parent pressure exit. But mostly it's just a kid who stopped wanting to play. That's the machine. That's the whole machine that we are raging against. The compressed version of all of this is the difference between regular play and public labor. A kid drawing in their notebook is regular play. A kid running a YouTube channel about their drawings, it becomes public labor. A kid throwing a baseball with friends in the yard, once again, regular play. A kid playing in a tournament where scouts are filming every single pitch, that becomes public labor. Same activity, sometimes, but what changes is whether someone's measuring it, monetizing it, or harvesting it. Except now in the year of our emperor, 2026, that clean split doesn't really hold up anymore. The line between regular play and public labor has completely blurred.
We were trying to find packs left and right. We ended up getting some packs from the prismatics. Actually quite interesting. It was the first time Rocky was like, can you film me opening this pack? I was cooking, we were making steaks, and we set up the camera. Every pack he was like, this one could be a God pack, Dad. This one could be a God pack.
And then one of them was just
Right.
A pickup game amongst friends could end up a viral moment by the time that kid gets home for dinner. The private side keeps leaking into the public side, and because kids are growing up in a culture that assumes everything that they do is eventually content, even kids whose families aren't trying to make money off of them are in a way inheriting that assumption. And I think that kind of social herding and that social squeezing is the type of stuff that is quietly pulling the line in one direction. Every interest is on stage, every stage has a producer, and every producer needs to, at the end of the day, justify their budget, bars. Like, share, and subscribe.
I could feel how special that moment was, and when I put it on Instagram, I had already treated my Instagram kind of as like a personal diary going through the fires, and when that happened, that moment, I was like, I have to share this because there's been so much sadness. I need to share this moment.
Oh, you got a 10! 10 on your first, a few 10
on my first
on the
grade.
first submission. A big step in the young collector's life.
So this video was originally going to actually be about the current state of like Pokemon scalpers and stuff like that, because people have literally died over Pokemon cards. Mother's Basement ended up putting out a video in May of 2026 called Parasites Are Eating Your Hobbies Alive. He names the architects of this modern craze: Logan Paul as the public face, Jeremy Padawan as the strategist in what Padawan himself calls the shovel business for over 30 years. And he walks through the exact playbook. Publicly overpay for a chase item. Watch the price you set become the new floor. Wash trade slabs back and forth at inflated numbers. Repeat. Link is in the description. His receipts stand, and I'm just kind of picking up where his video stopped. So the modern Pokemon squeeze has a date. Most people would say it's July 22nd of 2021. That was the day that Logan Paul revealed that he paid $5.275 million for a PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator. The price was the announcement. Putting the number out in public set the new floor for the entire asset class. And this past February, he auctioned that same card off for $16.5 million. The stunt purchase tripled into an investment in under 5 years. Meanwhile, the infrastructure underneath it consolidated. By December of 2025, the parent company of PSA, the dominant card grading service right now, moved to buy Beckett, one of its biggest rivals. It already owned SGC. So with Beckett folded in, one company now controls close to 80% of the global card grading market. One company. It owns the machinery that turns kid card games into financial assets. And like, here's where I want to push back on the easy version of this story. Pokemon flipping predates Logan Paul. I remember asking my dad to buy me a first edition Charizard at a freaking comic book convention in the late 90s. That card was a day one chase card for sure. Pokemon Collectables have existed alongside Pokemon since 1996. But what changed is the economy around the collectible tier. Post-2020 conditions, pandemic-era speculation, scalper bots at retail buyer scales, social media hype cycles, the broader financialization of everything that wasn't already financialized, it let the collectible tier metastasize. It used to coexist with the play tier, but now it has completely eaten it. And here's a demographic that's also driving a lot of this too. A lot of adults with financial trauma. I'm not like trying to boo-hoo or excuse any of this, but hear me out. We have a whole generation of millennials, younger Gen X who grew up with these cards. Most of us threw them out or gave them to a friend, Joseph Mahoney, I know you're watching this, or drop them at a box of Goodwill one Saturday because our parents told us to clean our rooms. Years later, we discovered the cards that we got rid of as kids would have been worth tens or even in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars if we just would have kept them. You know, diamond hands. And combine that with things like stagnant wages, housing price increases that have doubled while paychecks have remained, and the fact that most of us don't even know what retirement could even feasibly look like, the broader sense that our generation missed the boat on every single asset class that mattered. We're a generation of adults who can't think of Pokemon cards as toys anymore. We think of them as not only reclaiming what we lost, but also on top of that, a potential way out. That kind of adult is the customer base that this entire scalper industry was built for. Calling them villains misses a point of how the system works and how these origin stories are in a way created. And like, let me actually give you my own personal PSA grading experience to give you a little bit of proof about this. So I graded a few Lorcana cards early in my collecting journey and they came back 9s and 10s. Woohoo! I ended up selling them and we'll come back to where that money went later. But my eldest spent her own money to send one card in. She got back a 7. And if you're not in the know, then you know why I'm making this face. A 7 sounds fine until you remember that the slab is permanent first off. The grade is now a part of that card forever. A raw card can sell at whatever the buyer thinks that it's worth. A 7 graded card can't. It's officially been stamped less than perfect. The slab made her card less valuable than if she never submitted it at all. And like that happened to my kid. I can't in good, see? I'm already getting lit up about it. This is the math Mother's Basement describes hitting in real time against my own child who spent their own money trying to buy into the collector side of the hobby. Also, I'm gonna say I wrote this part about Lego before this whole bricks and minifigs controversy and story that's going on in the news right now, so kismet. So Lego is doing the exact same thing with a non-card product, and I mean, at the very least, they're being honest about it. Lego has openly split its catalog in two. The sets marketed to kids still exist. They stay quote-unquote affordable. These are sets that run $500 to $800. They sell out in minutes and are designed to be displayed after being built. The 18+ branding on the boxes is the literal admission. There isn't a toy here anymore. And you don't even get to build anything that would be required to be 18+, if you know what I'm saying.
Hey, can I ask you something? This is unrelated. As someone who just finished spending the majority of his life in prison, what happened with Legos? They used to be simple. Something happened out here while I was inside. Harry Potter Legos, Star Wars Legos, complicated kits, tiny little blocks. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, I just want to know what happened.
A kid walking into the Lego store today is walking past hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of merchandise that the company has openly sold as an adult collector hobby. Same trick as the slab on a Pokemon card, it's different product. The kid is not on the box anymore. So, pillar 2. Youth sports. So my 12-year-old daughter is in volleyball right now. She got into it through the Boys and Girls Club in our town. Twice a week, volunteer coached, and the Boys and Girls Club staff are organizing everything. For a child of the 90s, it is always how community recreation always worked. The city or a local club, YMCA, whatever, they helped organize ways for children to access youth sports. I'm telling you all this because it's part of the system that's been disappearing for like 15 years now. And my kid's getting pretty good at volleyball, I'm not gonna lie. So to call back to the intro of this story, a few months in, my wife and my daughter started hearing other parents talking about elite teams or traveling teams that you have to try out for, or whatever they're calling it these days. Every region has its own name for the next rung up, essentially. And my wife and I have started having this conversation in earnest, and I'm gonna be honest about why. Because I played these same league sports when I was her age. I ended up actually playing football all 4 years of high school, along with doing wrestling and track and field. And I hated it. But I'm also specifically the kind of person who knows the time and dedication math on competitive athletics because I lived it. If my kid wants to pursue competitive sports on their own volition, then at the very least, I'm going to make sure that they understand the investment involved. Now, I don't really consider myself a type of channel where I'm like, I'm going to give you direct advice, but let me at least walk you through what happens after these rumblings, because if you are a parent and your kid is good at anything, you are going to have some form of this conversation in some way. And like the entire reason the travel team can charge what they charge is the scholarship chase itself. So the travel team isn't volunteer coach. It's not twice a week. It's not run out of the Boys and Girls Club. Travel team fees run in the 4-digit range per season. Tournaments are out of town and they require you to stay in the tournament's preferred hotel. They call it stay to play. And if you book somewhere cheaper, your kid's team gets disqualified. Equipment lists run to $1,000 bats and 3-figure shoes that the marketing has convinced parents are the variable between 4 home runs and absolute obscurity. In some instances, the people running the leagues are actually private equity owners. The YouTube channel More Perfect Union laid this out in a documentary this spring, and the names are worth saying out loud. Varsity Brands controls competitive cheerleading. Black Bear Sports Group buys up ice hockey rinks across the Midwest and East Coast. The owners of the Philadelphia 76ers are building a youth sports empire on the side.
So as an example, Cal Ripken was somebody who was like my idol as a player, but more relevantly, post his playing career, Cal basically wanted to help kids. And he and his brother Bill started Ripken Baseball. And they have the best youth baseball business in the country, in my opinion. And once we got into youth sports, I had been talking to Cal for years about trying to partner with him in some way, shape, or form.
The travel team your kid's coach mentions is being run by a fund. And the entire reason the travel team can charge what it charges is the scholarship chase. The pitch is pretty simple. Invest in your kid now because you are a good parent. Why wouldn't you invest in your kid's future? And you'll earn that money back as athletic aid once they get into college. This is one of the reasons why Division I and Division II athletic aid totals over $4 billion a year. This is up from about $250 million in the early 90s. That is a lot of money, and parents who can't absorb modern college tuition see it and reach for it, because what other choice do they have in letting their kids have a chance at a stress-free education? And I think the average statistic is like 2% of high school athletes ever earn a athletic scholarship. So the chance that any individual kid lands the scholarship that the family is bankrupting itself to chase is just small. The pitch itself is absolutely broken. You are not going to hit it, but because of the pressure of our modern society, you sure as hell are still gonna swing. So back to my daughter in the Boys and Girls Club. She's doing so good. I'm so proud of her. So like I said, my eldest is going to be starting middle school in the fall. And luckily this summer, they just want to do something a little bit different. But with them going into middle school for 2 years and then starting high school, there is an actual argument to be made about her either starting a Boys and Girls Club team again, or at least trying something that is a little bit more serious and a little bit more structured. I would, in a way, be paying for the version of my kid that exists within this pipeline that I am talking about. And it sucks that that pressure is real. What used to be your Parks and Rec league for like $50 to $100 a season is now, for the kids who get pulled into it, a private equity asset class. Places like the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club are one of the few safe institutional spaces that are still standing, and they're not getting a whole lot of money. And like, that's one of the most insidious parts about this trap. You're not signing a contract until you are. You're just standing there at a Saturday morning game, having a conversation with the other parents, looking at your kid doing well and thinking, can I give them a chance to not have to worry and suffer like I did? And you're trying to figure out whether or not this thing that they're good at is just going to stay fun and a hobby and a game, or if in a way it's going to become its own job, which sucks. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I had to put on my robe and wizard hat because I wanted to show you my deck. I love Lorcana and just tabletop hobbies so much that I decided to open up my own little web shop. Do you have a friend who you've been playing Magic with for years and you've been trying to get them into Lorcana, but they don't have the time nor the want to put together a decent deck? Let me do it for you. All of our decks come in a heavy-duty 3D printed box made with PETG filament. This stuff is way more durable than the normal types of 3D printed things that you see for sale at conventions, and it's made to last. It is made to actually fall on the floor, take a hit. Every deck comes with its own deck box, Every card comes double sleeved, and you also get a complimentary set of gameplay tokens with your purchase. And if you really want a special gift for that special someone in your life, well, you can let me paint it for you. That's right, I will paint it to your specifications. I'll help customize it to fit the style and theme that you want. So check out aftermidnighttavern.com. That is my website. I'm going to be sponsoring myself from now on because seriously, literally 2 or 3 people per video purchasing something pays me like 2 times what I would get from YouTube in a month doing these videos on AdSense alone. My kids show up pretty consistently and pretty regularly in my content without them being the main draw. Part 1 was about me taking my middle 2 kids to participate in youth Friday night magic leagues. And in this video, I talk about how my soon-to-be 13-year-old kinda got burned falling for the whole PSA grading industry. And I'm also talking about her showing a great interest and really good talent in volleyball as well. I'm a parent who makes content that features his kids. That's just true. And with my eldest turning 13, she's at the age now where pretty much every kid in her grade either has some sort of account or is being told no by parents holding a line that they will not be able to hold past about 8th grade or so. And she's also at the age where she is asked if she can start making her own content. And like, here's 100% truth. If YouTube had existed when I was their age, I would have been on it. I have VHS and digital video recordings of videos that I made at 11 years old using Dragon Ball Z action figures, or more specifically, the Dragon Ball Z action figures that were given out by Burger King. Because the impulse to make things and share them is like one of the oldest creative impulses that children have. When I was younger, I wanted to be a filmmaker. The day YouTube launched, when I was like 15, 16 years old or so, I made an account and started uploading. Nothing was going to stop me, and if my mom had tried, I would have found a way around it anyway. I'm telling you all that because the easy version of this pillar, don't put your kids on the internet, is the version that lets the structural argument off the hook. The kid that wants to create and wanting to share what they make is, in my opinion, one of the healthiest impulses to have. The impulse to make a video and put it where other kids can see it is the same impulse that built the entire creative culture that I grew up in. I understand the need to be more protective about it, but like, we do not really get to be against it. To me, the whole trap is in what happens to the kid's creative labor once it enters public platforms. Ryan Kaji started reviewing toys before he could even read. He's 13 now with a net worth estimated north of $100 million and a channel that was run by a 30-person production studio. You can have whatever opinion you want about his parents, but ask yourself whether anyone would be this motivated if the deal weren't just give up a few years of a normal childhood and your kid never has to work for their life. That's the bait. And it works so well that the system barely has to do anything to convince most parents. His views have dipped since he's aged out of the toddler audience that made him. So the cameras have started to quietly swing towards his little twin sisters. The kid is set for life, but the kid is also interchangeable. And he's just one channel. There are channels like Vlad and Nikki. There are 2 boys whose family runs 21 channels across 18 different languages. That's not a show made for kids. That is a kid essentially copied across the entire planet. And I find the whole kids YouTube thing just so horrifically fascinating. So if you ever want me to do a video about that, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And then the worst case, the one that you've probably heard about from the news, Ruby Franke, the 8 Passengers channel, now serving up to 30 years for aggravated child abuse. That's where this goes when the structure meets a parent with no limits of their own. Most parents have limits. The structure around them, though, provides none. Her daughter, Shari, said it in front of the Utah Senate better than I ever could. There's no such thing as a moral or ethical family vlogger. She's right about a specific thing. The channel where the kid's life is the product, not every kid who has ever been on camera. The fight is about the structure that makes that kind of channel legal in the first place. And this original precedent was set with an 85-year-old loophole. Jackie Coogan was the titular kid in Charlie Chaplin's The Kid back in 1921. Once he grew up, he found out that his parents had spent nearly everything he had ever earned, and California passed a law in 1939. This made it so 15% of a child actor's money was locked in a trust until they're grown. But this law only ever covered kids with an employer, a contract. Family vlogging has neither. The parent is a camera operator, the guardian, and the name on the check. This loophole is finally starting to close now. There's been legislation introduced in states like Illinois, California, Minnesota, and Utah right after Shari testified. But it's one state at a time, and 16 more are still stuck in committee, and nothing at all on a federal level. So when my kids ask if they can start a channel, yes or no isn't the real question. The real question is a lot harder. Am I helping them express their creativity, or am I feeding their creativity, not their content, their creativity, into a machine that only runs if they want this? A kid can have a perfectly healthy relationship with making things and a deeply unhealthy relationship with the platform that publishes them. That's the nuance that does the most damage. And I think that there's a whole side conversation to be had about the whole YouTube to filmmaker pipeline, but that's a different video for a different day. The more academic language that I've been calling this thing, the adult monetization of kids' interests, that phrasing is obviously very clinical. So let me just say, I fooled you all. That's right, this is a video about capitalism, baby. That's right. Specifically, late-stage capitalism, habits of converting any unmonetized human activity, whether it be labor, leisure, sleep, attention, just your childhood, it's all an asset class now. The pattern doesn't have a villain because the pattern is the villain. It doesn't need one. It just needs a market to sell it. The gigification of the economy has reached now our kids' childhoods. We're not putting them in the mines or in the machines anymore. We're putting them in front of the freaking cameras. Adults who have spent the last 15 years being told that every interest that they have is now a side hustle, every hobby is a brand, every spare hour is a chance to monetize something. Those adults have built a world where now their kids can't have a hobby without that being potentially monetized at a future time and date too. The kids inherit what the adults have already lost, the ability to be in unproductive time. Like, everything moves so fast now that the ability to be bad at something for 2 years just because you like it, that doesn't exist anymore. And like, I'm guilty of this too, but once you see the pattern, it's hard to not see it everywhere. Anywhere that a kid develops a thing now, an adult is now ready to ingest it and monetize it. That's the thing. It sucks. I hate it. I hate it here. The kids that ask to make their own channel now doesn't know which version of I want to make videos is going to show up downstream. The kid bringing a card to mom and dad for a grading submission doesn't know which version of let's see what it's worth is about to land. The kid signing up for travel hockey is signing up for travel hockey. The kid in dance class that quietly became a competition circuit is in the dance class. The kid who is going to summer camp because they can put it on their college applications, they still just call it summer camp. The call is coming from inside the house, let's be honest. And because I'm not exactly sure how else to end this video, there are two places where this video lands. Parents who are inside of it right now, at the kitchen table, in the email threads, at the practices, at their local game shops on grading day, and the people who will eventually be in a position to add the next layer onto someone else's kid, whether it be school board, league committee, state legislation, working at a platform, or even just running their own little humble local game store. Both groups are looking at the same thing coming over the horizon right now. They're just standing in different places around it. The smallest version of it that I can do is me making a video like this and me doing what I can in my own house. Like, for example, I have an enchanted bell card in my Lorcana collection, and apparently a PSA 10 would push it over
$700.
Easy. But I'm not gonna grade it though. I don't think it's worth it to me anymore. Like, if a collector wants the card, I'll sell it raw. But if they want to send it in themselves, that is their risk. I'm not gonna feed the layer of the hobby that ate my daughter's Espeon VMAX card. That's the only thing I can really do, but that's one parent in the room making one choice. So now that you see the same pattern that I do, like, I hope you start making a good decision as well. What anyone does once they see all this is like the part of the video that I can't write, at least not accurately. So yeah, we have killed hobbies for kids. We did it slowly, and part of us did it for understandable reasons. So the whole reason I did these videos was just to ask one simple question. What are you gonna do to save your hobbies? Okay, and if you made it this far, you've made it to the end of the video. And for that, I thank you. Please let me know what you think about. I actually have a couple of videos ready. Next up, I'm gonna start doing some gaming videos again this summer, which I'm very excited about. But in the meantime, like, share, and subscribe the video. Maybe check out my Patreon. Maybe check out my website where I sell my crafting goods and services, aftermidnighttavern.com. Maybe buy yourself a introductory Lorcana deck that is actually pretty good to play with. Or maybe have me print and paint something for you as a gift. Or you can just keep it for yourself and call it merch. So either way, look at my deck, look at my stuff. I have deck pictures on my website, aftermidnighttavern.com. So once again, thank you. Give me feedback. Let me know what you guys think. And I will see you all in the next one. I love you all. Bye.